Jody Joe. Welcome to Jody's Corner. Thank you guys so very much for being here. I am Jody Joe, the proprietor of this studio movement. Thank you guys for being here. JodysCorner.com, Jody's Corner Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Music. This is another entry into the MCU in phase 3.999. Not quite phase 4, but it is talking about the events of Endgame and the after effects of what happened. Follows his boy Peter Parker after the snap, or as they say it in this film, they call it the blip. So this is basically another adventure for Tom Holland Spider-Man and him learning what it's like to deal with having these abilities and learning what's next. What's next as far as being Spider-Man? Well, we took this journey with him to go ahead and find out. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. I greatly, greatly appreciate you guys. So I had not much hype for this movie because after Endgame, it just seems like no other movie could even come close to getting me in that arousal point where I'm just hyped for another Marvel film. Especially, where Marvel said they're taking the future of their films down the inclusive SJW propaganda route. I'm not really too fond or too keen of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not into a black Superman. I'm not into a gay Spider-Man. And I just want to have no parts of that. And that's not because of how I feel about blacks or gays, because, I'm half black myself. It's about how I feel about these comic book characters. Now, regardless of how Tom Holland feels about his character Spider-Man, I'm still going to go ahead and review this film unbiasedly, as I always do. This film has a lot of moments that filled the blanks that Spider-Man Homecoming left off, in my opinion. Spider-Man Homecoming is a bore fest to me now that I think about it 2 years later, right? For me, Spider-Man Homecoming was a good film when it first came out, but over time, the rewatchability of that thing is just drowned out to like nothingness. I do not want to watch that film ever again, and I haven't. I seen the film in theaters. I bought the Blu-ray, the 4K Blu-ray when it came out, and I never opened it. I have seen Spider-Man Homecoming one time, and the only reason why I've seen it one time is because I have no desire to see it again. Its rewatchability is incredibly low because the epic web swingings wasn't there in Homecoming. The epic spider senses that he's supposed to have in Homecoming wasn't there. Yeah, Birdman was tight. The Vulture, he was tight. I liked him. He was the only part of the film that I actually liked. It felt like it lacked a lot of stakes and everything was kind of jokey. And it was a little too lighthearted for me. And that's my number one problem with Tom Holland. And I was wondering if he would be able to carry a movie by being a man. Spider-Man. Not Spiderling, not Spider-Boy, not Spider-Twerp. Spider-Man. I want to see a Spider-Man. And I was very vocal when Tom Holland got cast and they went so young. Because when you deal with somebody that's so young, you get young problems. You're not going to get those stakes. And that was a big problem for Spider-Man Homecoming. Well, what they tried to do with this movie, I do recognize that they tried to right some of the wrongs that they made with Homecoming. I just don't think they did a really good job at doing so. The number one important thing that I did like about this movie is what I noticed in the trailers. The CGI of this film is absolutely fantastic. It's crisp. It's refreshing. It looks like some of the best CGI to hit the MCU since Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. A lot of people like to say Endgame and Infinity War have the best looking CGI. That's just absolutely not true. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 has the best looking CGI in the MCU, and that came out in 2017. And now I think this probably has the second best. It's really nice looking CGI. Good job by Sony, the visual effects. I was really looking at the credits, and there was like 10 different visual effects teams all over the world involved with making this movie look this good, and it looked quite darn good. They did a really good job at this. So Nick Fury's in this film. They talk a lot about the events of what happened after Endgame, about the 5-year blip, the snap. And it was really nice and refreshing to hear stuff like that because I'm still on Endgame's high. I'm not come down from that yet. I loved Endgame. And they're talking a lot about it. They talk a lot about Tony Stark, and they talk about a lot about what it's like to live on and carry on. They have these little things in place about how dealing with depression and stuff after the blip happened. So Endgame's conclusion, Endgame's footprint is heavy in this movie, as it should be. That's what makes the MCU great, right? Because hey, they tell a big overall story, and all the other films, they get part of it. You know what I'm saying? They're a part of this big, huge web, no pun intended, of awesome filmmaking. Whether the films are good or bad, it still has that to lean on. It's a part of a bigger plan, and that's what's been helping the MCU for the last 10 years, in my opinion. So this film makes up for Homecoming with a lot of a lot more effort with visual effects and action. Yes, the action is here. Yeah, we get the Iron Spider suit and all that, yeah, but the action is so much better. The web swings are so much better. They actually show you web slinging. Even though it's not in New York, which I'm still yearning for, we got to get a Spider-Man swinging around New York and just doing his epic stuff. I mean, come on, Andrew Garfield still has the record for best swings in a Spider-Man movie. That was what, 2014? That was 5-6 years ago. Come on, what's going on now? So, but the action was much better. That is a highlight. They did more with the action. It was less boring than Homecoming was, and that's a good thing because I thought this movie might, be a disaster, but it wasn't a disaster, and I'm freaking happy about that. As far as the villain goes, Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, oh boy, he did a good job, and I told you guys I was so happy and jealous that you guys got Jake Gyllenhaal to play your villain. I wanted him as Batman for the DC universe, but I was like, wow, kudos to Marvel, man, because you guys came up on a good one. Jake Gyllenhaal was a fantastic villain in this movie. His acting prowess was showing. It was easy for him. It's effortless for him to be awesome and good as a villain. He was very convincing. He was very menacing, kind of weird. He was a weirdo. He had an easy trip to going in a certain way. Mysterio had this kind of heroic, noble vibe about him that you kind of rooted for, like beneath the snow. So I really like that. You know what I'm saying? I like the fact that Mysterio was a good anti-hero / villain / obstacle course for Spider-Man, and especially as far as his growth is concerned. Those are the two main highlights that make this film better than Homecoming, in my opinion. You have the action, and you got Mysterio. That's where it falls flat, and it's over with for me. Everything else, in my opinion, is more or less, how you want to figure it, of the same. It's more of the same cheesy dialogue. It's more of the same old rippy jokes. It's more of the goofball antics. It's more of the, I'm Spider-Man, but I want to be a kid. I want to be with my friends on a field trip. It's more of this cheesy gang that nobody cares to see. None of them. It makes zero sense to me why you would give them so much camera time when nobody cares about them. No one cares about that Flash Thompson. I'm sorry. No one cares about him. His jokes is whack. Ned, Genki, whatever the Miles Morales hybrid you got there. Nobody cares about Ned, even though he brings some comedy like he always does. No one cares about him. At least I didn't. I didn't care about the trip. I didn't care about the teachers. Didn't care about none of these throwaway characters that you put in here just so that you could keep the audience busy from showing us a great slate of characters that we could actually want to see. Instead, you show us 10, 20, 30 minutes of the beginning of this slow movie. This movie started off so slow. Why? Because you elected to try to show us Peter trying to be a kid and learning about, I want a trip, no costume, I want this, I want that. I don't want to save the world. Oh geez, do I have to? Oh my, you got to hear about his simple I understand what it's like for a child, because that's exactly what he is. He's a child. I understand what it's like for a child to deal with self-awareness. Oh, I'm a hero, but I want to be a kid. I get that. That's what that's what Civil War was for. That's what Homecoming was for. This is Far From Home. It's time to grow up. He still ain't grow up. What Tony Stark called him in Civil War, Spiderling, Spider-Boy, correct. He is not a man, nothing close to a man. These situations are too big for him. He still doesn't know how to fight. He still don't punch. He still doesn't do epic, the trash talking while he fights his villain, the Spider-Man type. He don't have it. He don't do it. And my number one problem with Homecoming, with the last boss fight, happens again in this movie. I won't say it, but a lot of you guys don't know something that I've noticed. The way they handle the final boss fight in Homecoming is very similar to the way it's almost identical, the way they handle the final boss fight in Far From Home. I mean, my God, let him grow up, please. Let Spider-Man grow up and do what needs to be done as a hero. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Tom Holland punch somebody. I don't remember the last time I seen him punch anyone. I don't see him do flip somersaults, kicks. I don't see his acrobatics. I just don't see it. There was some cool web swings when there was this scene with the elementals and he was going through some buildings and stuff like that, and it looked pretty cool. I'll admit that. You know, Mysterio looked cool. Of course, that's 100. But this movie, without giving away spoilers, gives so many more questions than it does answers. Speaking from a technological standpoint, an execution standpoint. So when you learn and find out what's going on with the kind of twist in this movie, it instantly starts to unravel and you're like, wait, then how is this possible? How is this possible? How does this? And then you realize, oh, okay, they folded that all up nicely for the plot, only for this. It really doesn't make sense to me. This is more of a weaker plot in my opinion, but it was executed well with the acting prowess of Jake Gyllenhaal. This movie relies on its actors, less so its script. The story is kind of boring and unimaginative, and it's kind of stale in my opinion. This film doesn't do much at taking Spider-Man to the next level of the fandom. In fact, you could be argued that it makes it stagnant, if not took a step back. Overall, Spider-Man Far From Home is a much better film than Homecoming when it comes to action. But as far as making Spider-Man in our hearts see him as the Spider-Man and the hero that he needs to be, I can't take him outside of the foreshadow of Iron Man's Tony Stark. He just makes me miss Tony Stark that much more. And for that, I give Spider-Man Homecoming a B-. Electrifying and magnetic. I was really close to giving this film a C+. Really close. Even though I would have gave this film a C+, it still would have been better than Homecoming, because right now, if I was to grade Homecoming today, I would give it like a D+ or a C. That's a C-. I would probably give it a C-, and that's where I'm at with it. So yeah, guys, that's basically the review. Also, I have a couple of things I want you guys to know. So you can become a sponsor on Jody's Corner and do something epic. This is the number one thing that I'm doing on my show. Jody's Corner's been blessed with the join button. If you look where it says subscribe on my channel, there's a blue join button where you can become a sponsor for $4.99 a month. You get exclusive live streams that were deleted, and you have access to all of them because they were kind of raunchy, right? Also, another perk. The last Thursday of every month, you get a special live stream with me and you, one-on-one, with members only. A members-only live stream. Become a sponsor for $4.99, and when I get to 1,000 sponsors, I'm taking one of my homeboys out the workforce, making boss moves out here at Jody's Corner, trying to employ one of my friends in the league to work for Jody's Corner full-time, put them on payroll. That's the plans. That's the goals, man. I want to get my friends out of this, out of their terrible retail jobs that they hate, or whatever jobs they hate. I'm trying to make everything pop and give you guys more content. Or you could get up Jody's Corner merch, you know, teespring.com/store/Jody's Corner 1. Get your Jody's Corner merch and check out and look like this sexy guy here, bro. Oh, look at my guy Kenny, bro, rocking the Jody's Corner exclusive hoodie, bro. That right there, what you don't know, I have hoodies on there for $35, $40, $30, $35, $40, but this one right here was a Nipsey Hussle special boss move. I ain't gonna tell you how much that was, but he paid the coin for it just because he's on boss status. That's the Jody's Corner exclusive hoodie. There's many other hoodies on the website, $20 t-shirts, clothes for women, babies, mugs. You know, we got leggings, you know what I'm saying? Go check it out. Thank you guys so very much for watching. I appreciate you guys. I am Jody Joe, and I'm out this thing, man. Deuces.